There are moments in the world of high-stakes politics and fame that don't just make headlines, they shatter the internet, leaving behind a storm of unanswered questions, shocking revelations, and a desperate global chase for truth. One such story now gripping the international stage is the mysterious and tragic death of South Africa's former ambassador to France, Emmanuel Neymar. His fatal fall from the 22nd floor of a luxury Paris hotel was initially a stunning tragedy on its own, but the narrative has since evolved into something far more complex, an electrifying saga of power, betrayal, and political intrigue that has the world watching. The center of this unfolding drama is none other than his widow, File Bethy, a woman of immense influence and composure, whose decision to finally break her silence has rewritten the script entirely. Her words have set the internet ablaze, not merely because they come from a grieving spouse, but because they come from a figure of established authority, intellect, and corporate might, someone whose statements carry institutional weight rather than emotional speculation. File Bethy is no ordinary widow mourning in the shadows of loss. She is a titan in South Africa's business landscape, a formidable leader, and a woman celebrated for her strategic acumen and economic insight. Her credentials are impeccable. Once recognized as CEO of the Decade by the Association of Black Securities and Investment Professionals, she commands respect in financial and political circles alike. Her 2013 wedding to Neymar was a lavish, high-profile affair attended by political giants, including former President Jacob Zuma, symbolizing the seamless union between two powerhouses, politics and finance. When someone of Bethy's stature and influence chooses to speak after years of silence, it is not idle chatter, it becomes a national event. Her understanding of power, leverage, and consequence gives her a voice that resonates deeply within both corporate and political systems. This is why her recent alleged statements, in which she reportedly names prominent individuals connected to her husband's mysterious death, have sent shockwaves through South Africa and beyond. The official conclusion from French authorities following the September 30th tragedy was both swift and devastating. They labeled the ambassador's death as an apparent suicide. Their report cited a concerning message he had sent to his wife shortly before his fall, and they noted the forcibly opened window of his hotel suite. But the Moore family immediately challenged this version of events. To them, the explanation was not only inadequate but suspicious. Their doubts grew stronger when it was revealed that Neymar's cell phone had been found nearly a kilometer away from his body, an inexplicable detail that threw the entire narrative into question. Determined to seek the full truth, the family refused to proceed with burial arrangements until a comprehensive forensic report was provided. This standoff formed the backdrop for what would soon become a bombshell intervention from File Bethy herself. As official channels dragged their feet and the family's demands for transparency went unanswered, the weight of expectation shifted to those closest to the late ambassador, those who could fill the gaps that authorities seemed unwilling or unable to explain. This is where the story took a dramatic turn, and where Bethy's alleged revelations began to ripple across social media, breaking the internet in spectacular fashion. Her reported statements, naming influential figures in connection with her husband's death, transformed the narrative from one of personal despair to one of political sabotage and systemic corruption. According to these accounts, Bethy's claims suggested that her husband's demise may have been the result not of private emotional struggle, but of immense political and financial pressure tied to his controversial past. Neymar, a former Minister of Police and later Minister of Arts and Culture, had long been enmeshed in South Africa's political elite. His name was synonymous with both authority and controversy. He had been linked to the infamous Marikana massacre and was frequently accused of corruption, financial misconduct, and misuse of public funds. For someone so deeply entrenched in the machinery of power, enemies were inevitable. Thus, when a woman of Bethy's reputation reportedly accused powerful names of contributing to his psychological breakdown and eventual death, it implied that she possessed not mere suspicion, but insider knowledge of the forces at play. These names, said to include former associates, officials, and once trusted friends connected to financial wrongdoing probes, are familiar to anyone who has followed South Africa's long, painful saga of state capture and corruption. Betty's alleged decision to publicly name these individuals was not framed as a vague insinuation or emotional outburst. It was portrayed as a calculated, deliberate act, a pinpointing of those she believed had either directly threatened her husband, blackmailed him, or betrayed him in a way that left him cornered and hopeless. In doing so, she redefined the tragedy. This was no longer about a man driven to suicide, but about a system that might have pushed him there. The gravity of such accusations cannot be overstated. Her words have ignited debates across political, legal, and journalistic spheres, compelling the South African government to confront the uncomfortable possibility that one of its own diplomats may have been destroyed by the very structure he served. The implications of her statements are staggering. If true, they link the tragedy in Paris to the core of South Africa's political corruption scandals, potentially implicating figures who once held the nation's highest offices. In this light, Betty's revelation becomes not merely a cry for justice, but a strategic move, a challenge to entrenched power and a demand for accountability. It forces the government and investigative bodies to re-examine not just how Neymar died, but who might have wanted him silenced. It's a call to shift the focus of the inquiry from the hotel room to the web of influence and deceit that surrounded him. Betty's voice carries weight precisely because of her dual familiarity with both the business world and the political one. She understands how influence is exercised, how narratives are shaped, and how silence is weaponized. Her refusal to remain quiet and her insistence on exposing names transforms her from a bereaved wife into a catalyst for truth. Her testimony, rooted in personal loss but framed in systemic critique, offers what no investigative reporter or leaked memo ever could, an insider's chronicle of power gone wrong. She provides chronology, context, and motive, the elements that the French inquiry seemed unable to reconcile, such as the mystery of the missing phone and the strangely jammed hotel window. For years, the Mua family has rejected the notion that Neymar's death was self-inflicted. Betty's supposed statements now appear to vindicate that stance. By stepping forward, she not only amplifies the family's pursuit of truth but also redefines her husband's legacy. She refuses to let him be remembered as a fallen politician consumed by scandal. Instead, she frames him as a victim of intimidation, betrayal, and a political culture willing to destroy one of its own to protect itself. Her defiance is not just personal, it's political. It demands that the institutions which failed her husband in life now redeem him in death. This development also reshapes the emotional and political dynamics surrounding Neymar's funeral. The family's earlier vow, that there would be no burial until justice was served, takes on new urgency. The South African public, already weary from years of corruption and deception, has responded to Betty's alleged revelations with an outpouring of empathy and outrage. Her courage to name names where others have chosen silence taps into a collective desire for truth and accountability. It symbolizes a broader national reckoning, a demand that the system finally answer for its transgressions. At its core, this saga is no longer about one family's grief. It is about the collision of personal loss and political rot. It's a story of how love, power, and betrayal can intertwine at the highest levels of society, producing consequences that reverberate far beyond the confines of a Paris hotel suite. It's also a story about control, of narrative, of justice, of memory. By publicly confronting the machinery that may have contributed to her husband's death, Betty has not only honored his memory but also positioned herself as a formidable force in South Africa's ongoing struggle with truth and transparency. The fallout from her reported statements has placed immense pressure on both French and South African authorities. The demand is no longer just for procedural closure, but for moral reckoning. How did the ambassador's phone end up nearly a kilometer from the scene? Why were crucial pieces of evidence overlooked? Who stood to gain from his silence? These questions, once dismissed as conspiracy, now occupy the center of international discourse, fueled by Betty's unwavering determination. Her testimony could very well become the turning point, a bridge between suspicion and proof, between rumor and revelation. Her disclosures, whether in public addresses or through legal channels, are far more than emotional outpourings. They represent a calculated act of defiance, a deliberate challenge to a system that thrives on secrecy and intimidation. In a landscape where speaking out against power can invite ruin, her willingness to confront it head-on is an act of extraordinary courage. Each word she utters serves as both an accusation and a call to action, a reminder that truth, however delayed, cannot be permanently suppressed. The world now watches as this global legal and political drama continues to unfold. The countdown has begun for the investigation to deliver answers. The individuals she allegedly named remain in the shadows, their identities whispered across social media and in political circles, waiting for confirmation or denial. Yet, even without full disclosure, the impact of her words is undeniable. They have reignited public scrutiny, reignited the demand for justice, and redefined the legacy of a man once vilified in death but now potentially vindicated in memory. What began as a story of a mysterious death has transformed into a symbol of systemic failure and resistance. File Bethy's voice, emerging from the depths of grief, now echoes across nations as a rallying cry for justice and truth. Her defiance has made the powerful uneasy and the public hopeful. And as the investigation moves forward, one thing is clear: the truth about Emmanuel Neymar's death, whatever it may be, will not stay buried. The world waits, breath held, to see whether the names she has supposedly revealed will surface and whether the seismic saga will finally expose the forces that claimed not only a life but also the integrity of the institutions sworn to protect it. The explosive fallout of her revelations has only just begun, and what comes next may well reshape the narrative of South Africa's political conscience for years to come.